Hi everybody, my name is John Carter. I am the author of the book Mastering the Trade, founder of a website called simplertrading.com. One of the questions I have asked myself in my now nearly 30-year trading career, and something that I find a lot of other people asking, is that when you come upon a specific situation, for example right here, the question literally is, what do you do? Because a couple of things will happen when something like this is taking place. And you'll notice that this is the beginning of the year 2015, and the markets were volatile. There's a lot of bad things. And if you looked at the news, there was bad news all over the place. And so it was easy to kind of lose confidence in what the market was actually going to do and just get caught up in tips. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, I just read this newsletter, and it's talking about the end of the world, so I'm going to short everything. And in those kind of situations, it's frustrating because as a trader, it's easy to lose sight of what's really happening in the market and get confused by all of the data that's mostly fear-based, by the way, that's coming your way and trying to influence your opinion. So what do you do? So one of the things that I've found is, and I just accidentally discovered this many, many years ago, and it changed my trading forever, but it's a indicator called the squeeze, okay? And what this does is it just measures a compression of volatility, okay? And it's telling you when there's a compression of volatility that volatility is about to get released again, okay? And what I've found is that this trumps everything else. It's more important than the news. It's more important than whatever newsletter you get telling you that, you know, the market's going to rally or the market's going to fall. It's actually telling you what's going to happen next, okay? So if we come back and look at the markets here, and gosh, it's like, what would you do in this situation? Well, what I've learned to do in this situation is to follow my edge, and my edge is simply letting this play out. All right, so let's look at this and say, okay, we come along here, and what this thing eventually does, okay, is what I call fire long. All right, what does that mean to fire long? So while right here it may have looked like a disaster, the reality of it is that we never got negative, okay? And then as soon as we started turning right here, these were huge long signals. And then typically when it actually triggers, okay, because you can actually get into this before it triggers, but when it triggers, then you typically have 8 to 10 bars of, in this case, positive prices because it was a positive signal. And since this is a monthly chart, that's 8 to 10 months. So in this kind of a situation where a lot of people were expecting the end of the world and shorting everything, the market had this huge rally that you could make a lot of money from if you just participated, okay? Now, these monthly charts are important, but, you know, I don't trade. When I buy a position, I'm not always looking to hold it for a year. What about trades just to last a couple of weeks? As an example here on Baidu, I had been watching the stock because I like to trade it, and you can see that there was, in this case, this is a squeeze that ended up triggering to the downside, and you can see we had a downside move there. I missed that trade because I just wasn't, you know, I was focused more on the long side simply because the overall markets were bullish at that point. And so as we're going along here, the news coming out on the Chinese stocks wasn't great, and I could see that another squeeze was setting up here. I was like, okay, well, gosh, this last squeeze triggered short, but at this point, you know, the news is coming up, and you can see that the momentum's going. So based on the squeeze here, it was giving me a long signal, but anytime I looked at the message boards or the news, everybody was bashing the Chinese internet stocks, right? So I went ahead, though, and took a long position on this based on the signal, all right? And here's the signal, and we can see, okay, so how did that work out? And if we just kind of come along here, you can see not only does it fire long, but the thing just explodes up here. All right, you might think that, okay, John, that's great. That's something that you could see in hindsight, but there's no way you could catch a move like that. In this particular place, not only did I buy a lot of the 180 calls, but I also sold a lot of the 187.5, $180 put credit spreads, and this quickly turned into a 6-figure profit, which, by the way, are my favorite kinds. So while the squeeze is great on daily charts if you want to trade that last a couple of days to a couple of weeks, it even works on 5-minute charts if you're looking for trades that last like 30 minutes. What I really like about these, though, is that, you know, on the monthly charts, these squeezes set up every 3 to 5 years, and when they do, they're super powerful. You can see that there's one setting up right now on gold. Okay, there's going to be a huge move in gold. And you can see here that there's a huge squeeze that just triggered on crude oil. Okay, obviously that's going to impact crude oil futures, but that's also going to impact all of the crude oil stocks as well, all the energy stocks. And as I'm talking about this right now, there's a huge squeeze setting up on the S&P 500 on the daily chart. Okay, the last one that set up was a very nice squeeze to the downside. Okay, the market's imploded with that squeeze. There's one setting up right now as I'm talking about this. Okay, so what I found with this is that a lot of times people end up say they may make money in a stock like Tesla, or they're looking for a tip, right? And they end up trading stocks not because there's a signal, not because there's an edge, but because they feel like they're pressured to do it, right? What I've learned over the years very painfully is I do not trade a specific stock. I only trade edge, okay? And so when I'm looking for a trade, I'm not looking at Tesla, I'm not looking at Nvidia. What I'm looking for is edge, and for me, edge is a squeeze. So if there happens to be a squeeze on Tesla, if there happens to be a squeeze on Nvidia, that's great, I'll trade it. But if I don't have that edge, I don't touch it, okay? So anyway, I got really excited when I discovered this, and my trading improved dramatically when I started trading edge instead of looking for something to do, instead of listening to the news, instead of listening to a tip. Either you have edge or you do not have edge, and a squeeze gives you edge, okay? So I recently did a couple of classes on this that talks about exactly what the squeeze is, how it works, and how to trade it. The classes that I did were $479. People loved them, they raved about them, and it's impacted a lot of people's trading very positively, not only once they learned about the theory and psychology and kind of the code behind these tools, but more importantly, how to trade it, how to look for it, okay? You know, whether you're trading futures or Forex or stocks or options on underlying stocks, all right? If you're seeing this page for a limited time, you can actually get these classes for $7. All right, and I'm doing this because I feel like people need an edge over the algorithms that are out there. People need an edge over Wall Street. And if you're willing to invest $7 in yourself, then you can have this edge as well. Okay, so welcome to the world of edge. I hope you have a great time enjoying this class. I had a lot of fun teaching it, and I love sharing this information. And best of luck to you out in the trading world.